you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Welcome to another episode of Dad is Not a Noun. My name is Ishmael, changing the narrative for men in color in fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. And today I have a returning champion back on with me. We're going to talk about the importance of what's going on right now when it comes to the important education. Again, this is not fear mongering. What this conversation is about is to educate you and let you know what's going on and what you can do at the moment to help yourself prepare for what's going on. I have the good brother with me out of NYC, Chris Lake. He is the founder of Behavior Boost.
Good to be here, brother. Thanks for having me once again. It's always a pleasure. As he said, I'm the founder of Behavior Booster. It's a parent consulting company. We give advice for parents who have kids with special needs, as well as challenging behavior, how to navigate around that. But my brand aside, let's talk about the Department of Education. Now, we had a conversation about this last time, and I'm glad to come back on to further dive into this. And as you address, people are concerned that fear mongering is going about. And first things at first, I want to address that term, right? Fear mongering is sometimes a term that's too liberally used, in my opinion, because factually speaking, there can be decisions that come down the pipeline that are scary to a portion of the population or majority of the population. And discussing that is not fear mongering. Without discussing things that might be considered scary, we can't develop plans of action. And that's called being an adult. Um, I personally find fear wasteful. I find the best way that you can address fear is logically, and you can't address anything logically if you're not actually addressing it. So we need to speak about things that we might not be comfortable with. That's okay. That's where the growth happens. So I would warn anyone who's saying don't fearmonger, A, ask them to define the term, and B, ask them if they are opposed to people discussing that which is uncomfortable around them. Because that will tell you a lot more about what you need to know with that kind of person. And it's not to say that they're a bad person, it just means that you want to discuss things that are important to you with a certain caliber of person so that you can have a productive conversation. You don't need to waste your time or energy otherwise. That
No,
being aside,
definitely agree with that. And let's get into it because when I think about film mongering, I think one of the most effective commercial was back in the days called Daisy, where you see this little girl with a teddy bear, and then you see this nuclear blast, but you don't have a conversation about it.
right.
And so a lot of people just fear of the unknown. So let's just go into this conversation because I think it's important to understand again how Congress is the one that has the power to eliminate the Department of Education. Let's get that first out of the way. Yes, the president can sign executive orders that may impact the Department of Education, but to abolish it completely, it has to be Congress. So let's get that out of the way. Let's talk about, let's say, if God forbid Congress does abolish it,
Right.
how does it affect college students that has loans to the federal government?
So your loans, you still owe the tax man. You still owe all debts because what they'll do with any college loan is transfer those debts to the Department of Treasury. So if anyone is hoping that the Department of Education being closed means you no longer have any student loans, I have some bad news for you. Um, those who don't get have loans, those who are looking to get loans for college, I also have bad news for you because the Department of Education does a few things, and they don't really discuss it in the narratives that you're hearing in a lot of the media. Most of the budget of the Department of Education, almost two-thirds, is dedicated to federal student loans. Okay, between 60 and 66% of all the Department of Education budget goes straight towards Pell Grants, federal loans, etc. FAFSA, the things that get people the opportunity to be able to afford college. Now, if this is disrupted, right, that means many people will have to find alternative forms of funding, and that's either straight out of pocket, which is not a viable option for most Americans, or that opens a door to alternative lending, predatory lending from banks and other loaners, which was outlawed, but they do have bills in Congress currently looking to reopen those doors in that chapter in history. Um, I wish I can come on the show and give people some good news. I'm going to shoot straight facts without bias, so you can be aware. And ideally, those who hear my words, talk to other people about this in a very logical manner. Don't be overly emotional about it. Just let people know what's happening so that they can appreciate what really is happening. There's currently three bills that are out to abolish the Department of Education. One by Senator Mike Rounds, it's Senate Bill 5384, if anyone wants to look it up. One by Representative Thomas Massey, that's HR 899, and one by Representative David Rouser, that's HR 369. And they all look to abolish the Department of Education in different ways, and none of them have matching bills yet. So you need matching bills in order for it to become law. That's both on the state and the national level. These all try to address the issue in different ways. Mike Rounds one talks about different allocations. Rouser's one talks about redistributing the responsibilities. And Massey's bill literally is just one sentence. It just says, effective immediately, the Department of Education is terminated. Uh, that's the whole bill, which unfortunately right now has 30 co-sponsors as well, but no matching Senate bills. So let's hope that doesn't pass. The bad news I have, you are correct that the president cannot sign an executive order to close the Department of Education. It is never going to be a unilateral decision. But unfortunately, we have a new element in office that we have no game plan for, to be honest. We have no land map. We've never been here before. And that, unfortunately, is Elon Musk and Doge. What they are able to do is defund the Department of Education to the point that it's defunct. And they don't need Congress for that. They can slash their budget so that they're unable to give to states or unable to give to federal student loans. And I'll be straight honest with you. I don't know how to counter that. That they have worked. They've already taken $889 million away, as well as dozens of federal contracts, training contracts. Obviously, DEI they're going to cut, and they're looking to cut more. Linda McMahon in her confirmation hearings today did confirm that she is looking to close the Department of Education. She said if we close it, she wants to do it the right way through Congress. So that's something for you to know as well. That is what she said. And there are no matching bills. So we're still a little bit away from being closed completely. But they are dead set on doing this. We do see that there is the energy, the intention, the attempts to end the narrative. They're talking about it on a regular basis more and more so. The president said just yesterday, that the Department of Education is, quote, a con job. So they really do want to get rid of this. This is not fear mongering. It's worth taking this seriously because if you pretend it's not a problem and you find out it is a problem, then you're really in a tough spot. What you can do in the meanwhile is call your congressional senators. That's what I tell everyone. Call your congressional senators, call your reps, call your senators. You have 2 senators per state. You have multiple reps per state. Keep calling them and say, listen, do not defund the Department of Education. Do not abolish the Department of Education. Fight for us, and fight for us. And if someone's hearing this and is still not convinced, the one fact that I learned when I was at the press conference with my governor of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul, as well as Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, is that property taxes will go up. So if you don't want to take it from me, take it from people who know better than me, who who actually run this state. Property taxes will go up, and they're not just speaking in New York. Across the country, to make up the difference of the loss of federal funding that does go to K through 12 schools, we need money. Either we need money to keep those schools open and funded and staffed the way they are currently running, or when they lose 10 to 15%, if not more, of the funding they're used to, they're going to have to get that through another means. And the first means that they're going to go to is property taxes. So if you're a homeowner, your property taxes will go up. Not might, they will go up. If you don't own a home and you rent, guess what? Your landlord owns land, and his property tax is going to go up, so your rent's going to go up. If you shop at stores that are brick and mortar, their property taxes are going to go up, so their prices are going to go up. Recognize that everything's connected. We keep playing this fast and loose game of my team, your team, us versus them. There is no us versus them. It's all us. We're all connected. It is a great we that we, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we love it or not, we are connected to each other. I in New York am connected to a farmer in California. Someone in Kentucky is connected to a nurse in Connecticut. You might not realize how, but we still have connections. We are titled the United States for a reason. And that should carry weight. And that should resonate now more than ever, because if we don't keep it together and we don't see each other as neighbors and citizens and brothers and sisters, or whatever terms you want to use, that just means this person is okay by me, we're going to be in trouble. And is that fear mongering? I don't know, but I don't see the outcome being a positive one when we lose how much education our kids have, and how much and increasing how much life costs. If someone could sell me on how that's a good thing, I'd be impressed, but I just don't see it.
No, and I think that's important to bring up that what you brought up when it comes to property tax going up, because again, it puts the burden on the states. For
Right.
example, when you talk about federal pots, when money comes to the federal to the federal level, each state, um, California is number one. I do believe what are they put what I think what is it like 13% of funding to the federal government, and then you have New York. I think they put in like 8% of money to the federal government. So New York and California brings in 21% of federal dollars to the government. So if you do the math, 21% is a lot of money.
That's a lot.
And so if this happens, this is going to impact a lot of states that voted for Trump. For example, like when you talk about who gets the most money when it comes to federal dollars, that's like Mississippi,
Oh God, bro,
Alabama.
bro, it hurts me.
Again, those are like the when you talk about taking the most subsidies, those are the ones you have to think about, because again, they have the lower test scores, lower
Mhm.
education
Right.
in the country. So when you talk about the impact of the ending of the Department of Education, is going to impact those states.
Oh my God. Listen, I can't even. I literally on my post now I hashtag MAGA. I've never done that before. I hashtag farm life. I hashtag rural, because for me, I don't have beef with you if you're in Kentucky or in Alabama or Mississippi. You're an American. You vote the way that your parents told you to vote, just like I vote the way my parents told me to vote, and that's pretty much true for just about everyone if you're really honest about it. And there's some exceptions, but we we're indoctrinated by our zip code, man. That's the gist for most people, because before you had an internal dialogue, people were already putting ideas into your subconscious that you will die for and you will kill for, whether you want to admit it or not. It's dark, but it's true. That's kind of how ideas and concepts are born. um the red states, they will be hit so hard. No one's going to be hit harder than the small farmer. Small farming is going to be relegated to a hobby. It's going to be relegated to survivalist hobbies that some people still engage in very close knit communities. There will be no more small farmers that are on the market. Rural communities. I've had people respond to posts of mine telling me that they live in rural communities now and they have to drive 80 miles. I wish I was making this up. 80 miles. I had to like look at it 3 times because I couldn't believe my eyes to go get their kid to the school that they go to. That's wild. And they say, and that school's at a threat of closing down. So when people hear, magic words like school choice, they think, oh, this is great. I can just do whatever I want. And I really want people to think for a second. I want you to think if you're a parent, even if you're not a parent, I want you to think, what's the best school that you know in your neighborhood that, people speak highly of? Okay. Now, at this current moment, are they fully enrolled? The answer is yes. They've been fully enrolled. So if all of a sudden public schools are closing, you think suddenly they're just going to let in a whole horde of random people that they have to vet? No, it's not school choice. It's school's choice. They decide who's coming in, and they have no restrictions on who they can restrict. They can pick and choose whoever they want for whatever reasons. My daughter went to a private school, private preschool, And it's a fancy matter now because we're big on making sure she carries over the French culture. My wife's from Haiti. She really was like she's gonna speak French and English, and God bless her, she does. But I noticed the school. Yeah, yo, you get out of Haitian woman's way, man. There's no point.
That's facts, facts, facts.
um, I love her though. She's great. But the thing is, we noticed that the school itself, because it's private, they pick who they want. She's like one of the only black kids in the school. But not only do they have very little diversity, they have few boys.
Mm,
And it took us a year or two to recognize that there's almost no boys in the school because they can pick who they want. The owner's a
yeah,
woman, the staff is all women, and honestly, at that age, it's easier to deal with little girls than deal with little boys. So if the choice, let's just pick a bunch of girls. And they did. Another school could say we only want kids that are from our same ethnic background, whatever ethnic background that might be, and it's not against the law anymore. So, school choice might not work for you. They also might say we only want kids who are straight A students. So if your kid is a B plus, they might say, sorry, that's just not going to cut it, despite the fact you really, really want to go here. It doesn't matter if it's top of your list. Are you top of their list? There's all these narratives that people are being sold, and I wish that people would check the receipts. Department of Education has nothing to do with curriculum. Nothing to do with curriculum. All right. New York City, not state, New York City back in December decided they're going to include Black studies in the curriculum from K through 12. That's the city. If the government was in charge of curriculum, then New York City can't do that. Or everyone would be doing it. But no, New York City. New Jersey has climate change required in K through 12, and they've had it for the last 4 years. Washington State, they have required LGBT studies, and there's one of 7 states that does. Texas, back in November, voted to have Bible infused elementary classes. Florida requires civics classes that you can't graduate from high school if you don't understand how the government works. I believe Arkansas has personal finance, Utah has archery, Wisconsin has dairy, Montana has agriculture. So the concept of this indoctrination by the feds, there's no receipts. And I think as people, like, however we move forward, whatever happens next, let's just all agree that we're going to really question the source, no matter who's talking, and ask for receipts. Even if it's your guy. Oh, that's my guy. I love this one. But let me just check that receipt because that sounded kind of funny. Oh, this or if someone's speaking ill against someone you don't like, still check the receipt because that's worth noting as well. Make sure whoever is giving you information is valid, and don't just assume because they were valid yesterday they're still valid. Keep checking what people are saying to make sure you're not being misled, because there's a lot of money in misleading people, and there's a lot of money in making people outraged and emotional. If you haven't noticed.
yeah. And then on top of that too, I think when you talk about receipts, if you go to the government website, it's important to understand that the Department of Education is only what 3% of the budget. And if you
It's
think
tiny.
about it, that's just buckets compared to the money they spend when it comes to the Defense Department.
Right.
Um, because that's when you think about the Defense Department, that is just basically they have no oversight, and so they spend recklessly, and there's
Reckless.
no truly really no audit on what they're spending,
No, and
but
there's no
they're going
consequences.
after like departments that really impact people's lives, like the Department of Education. If you think about Medicare, if you're talking about Social Security, those are things that people um, need in their daily lives. So, again, it's you have to draw the correlation. Is that if you think about it, at the end of the day, it's about the people that's in the situation now is that they're just trying to profit as much as they can. It's like robbers in a bank. They're in the
Yeah.
bank now, and they're going to take as much as they can,
Yeah.
and then bounce. And
Yeah.
then people going to act like, "What happened?"
Yeah.
And again, like you've been telling people, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not trying to fearmonger you, but I'm just letting you know this is what's going on. You need to be informed. You need to know what's going on, and this is how you have to be proactive.
Right. Right. I mean, awareness is the first step, and it's worth, like you said. Why would we go after the Department of Education? Why would we go after USAID before looking at the Pentagon? And just to piggyback off that idea, I heard someone say recently, why would why would there be in this team that's auditing the government spending not one actual auditor? They don't have anyone who has a finance background. It's hackers. Why are you using hackers instead of someone who's going to look at the books? It's a strange. It doesn't make sense. You have 19 to 24-year-olds who have how much experience in this? They're looking at the United States government's sacred data of its citizens, and they're getting carte blanche. It's strange. It's very strange. And again, we need to look for receipts. When he had a press conference, when Elon Musk had a press conference, and they asked him what he found, he didn't come up with anything. He didn't say what the issue was. I wish I could have found it earlier, but apparently there was an issue with USAID spending. There was a $57,000 issue. That was legit. Someone mentioned like there was of all the monies they found, but $57,000 does not seem a good enough cause to drop its funding down to like I think they kicked it like 94% of staff, or I mean they killed it. Essentially, it's not going to be functioning anymore. But I know like 94% of staff is gone because of a 57 grand discrepancy. It's they're playing in our face, right? And we're supposed to let it happen. We're supposed to not be too loud about or contentious about it, but I don't think it's sustainable because eventually you're going to step on too many toes in my opinion. Like you said, they're robbers, and I think they're assuming that no one can stop us, and so what if people find out?
Right.
And there's 341 million Americans. We are all types of different people cut from different cloths, you know, and if you push comes to shove, someone might stand up and say, nah, that's too much. And how they demonstrate that feeling can manifest in a number of ways. um, I'm hoping that people in Congress, people who have power, they step up. It's weird for me to see Mitch McConnell stepping up to Trump. I'm kind of like, well, too little too late. But
Right.
at the same time, I have to look at every breath of hope and say, okay, maybe he can talk to some other people. Maybe other people will do the same down the road because we see what it is. We know what time it is, and we understood the assignment. And I tell people build bridges because ultimately, I'm pretty convinced like people in the Black community understand exactly what was going to happen, what we needed to do, and that we still need to continue having conversations and make plans. But we're also still not fully certain as to what exactly we can do that will work, and that's the hard part. Which is why we need to keep having conversations like this because, does it come down to? It's not going to be a protest. You know what I mean? And will it be a boycott? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. Like money usually moves mountains in this country, so it's probably going to be something money related. Um, but the conversation needs to keep going, and we got to think about, okay, in the event that he actually does the thing that he said he was going to do, what are we going to do? If the Department of Education closes and schools close, how are we going to educate our kids?
Right.
That's the next conversation we need to have. How are we going to make sure they know? How are we going to make sure they know their Black history, their diaspora history, their African history, their world history? How are we going to make sure that they are giving access to STEM despite not having a classroom? How do we make sure that they can aspire to be engineers and any level of technical proficiency that the world or this country wants to call DEI whenever they see someone in that position? Because, there's certain jobs they don't say that about, and there's certain jobs they do. So how do we make sure that our young Black girls and boys will say, that job's for me? That job's exactly what I want to do. Yeah, I want to be a pilot. Yes, I want to be a surgeon. Yes, I want to be an industrial engineer, whatever it may be, and be fearless about it. And then have the resources too, whether that means we have to make pods amongst ourselves or just create after school tutoring. That's probably going to be the key, to be honest. Just start upping our tutoring game. Because I'll be honest with you, the one of the narratives that drove me nuts about America is that before the Department of Education, we were number one,
Right.
and then after it, now we're number 38, 40, what have you. And that's not true. I just want to make sure people know
Right.
that's not true. The way they're framing it is incorrect. And there's different ways you can frame it. If you want to talk in terms of no, that's still not true. So K through here's what happens, right? We didn't start testing internationally until the 60s. And the first time we tested in the 60s, we compared ourselves to about 20 different nations. Now we compare ourselves to 80 something nations. So we started with 20. And when we did, we found that America was about right in the middle of the pack. Okay. Right before the 70s, we developed a bigger system. We had now 43 different countries that we tested along. And we found that we were right in the middle of the pack. Okay. Today, now that we have 80 plus countries, not all countries, because there's 195 countries, we're not testing across all those, we're testing across about 80 something countries. and America tests right about in the middle of the pack. We didn't change. We didn't do worse. We didn't do better. While our testing scores did drop, if you look, Japan is about number one. Their testing scores dropped the same exact amount. They dropped 15 points. We dropped 15 points for over the last, I want to say 10, 15 years. And it's around the same era that smartphones became more accessible and
Right.
social media was just released or unleashed into the world. So it's not an education thing. It's when it's worldwide. Otherwise, you'd see that America dropped down and everyone else is doing better. Everyone's slid down. Everyone, the entire world. The only two exceptions on the planet were Singapore and Vietnam. And Vietnam is more interesting than Singapore because Singapore is wealthy. Vietnam is not considered a wealthy nation. You could say it's a developing nation, however you want to phrase it. That's obviously offensive to the people who live there. They are a nation that actually honors and respects teaching, education, and they have a culture of tutoring. It's in their culture. It's so normative that if you do not have a tutor for your child, that's considered strange.
Mm.
All right, that's how common it is. That's their culture. And I think as Black people, I think as all people, right? We all people who will be affected by what America's government is looking to do with the education system, we would do well to borrow off of systems that work.
Right.
That system works. What drives me nuts about what we're doing right now as a data analyst is that it's based off no data. We're just saying, let's just try anything because
Yes.
what we were doing didn't work. So and no, you don't just try anything as your first go-to. First, you look at what works somewhere else.
Yeah.
And can we implement this? Like if it only works there because the population is so tiny, then okay, we can't use it. But if we can implement, let's try it. If that doesn't work, let's try something else that has worked somewhere else. But America doesn't want to do that. America wants, like, I guess they want the credit for saying we thought of something on our own. It's American made. It's like, listen, tutors. They use
No,
tutors. Do tutors.
the
Their
only thing
math
we
system.
use that's effective is when I've had a previous guest on, uh, Alejandro Jimenez, and we talked about the immigration thing. I think the only thing that the United States has a common theme of constantly using since the birth of the nation is the fascist ideology to draw this culture war. Um, but also, I think one of the major roles that plays into is that we 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 put more focus on the individual instead of community.
Yeah.
And like what you're telling me about Singapore, about mentors, the focus is community. Tutor is a part of the community.
Right.
And in American society, we're all about self. It's like I'm a made male, made man, or made woman. I did it on my own.
Right.
But you talk to them, you say, hey, did you go to uh, a public school? Yes. Did you go to a public university? Yes. Did you have people that influence your life? Yes.
Right.
Then
Right.
how are you a made
No,
person
no,
if you
exactly.
had these people help you along the way? And that goes back to, like we were talking before, is that you go back 40 years ago, like not even 40 years ago, if you go back to Ronald Reagan, it was all about, you know, that idea you could do it on your own. You don't need government help.
Right.
But if you go back to the policies when we talk about make America great and we talk about like the 50s, you talk about the New Deal, people love the New Deal because it got a lot of people out of poverty because, before that you had the Great Depression.
Right.
But it was fine then. But today it's like, oh no, no, we can't do that. We can't help. No, we just don't have the money.
Well, I
And
mean,
at the same time, behind the scenes, trickle down economics never work.
no, never.
This is
I mean,
the impact of trickle down
that's. I
economics.
mean, that's part of the game they play, though, right? They sell us. Ronald Reagan was so popular because he was a celebrity. You know, Trump's popular because he's a celebrity. Republicans love a celebrity hero. I would say Americans love a celebrity hero, to be honest. But that's something that the Republican Party, they just, ooh, perfect. This is gonna get us votes. It's easy. It flips a switch of familiarity. It flips a switch of likability. It takes a lot of legwork out of the game as opposed to wait, what's your name? Tim Walz? And who are you? Why do I like you? Okay, let me set my brain on Trump. I've seen that dude before. He's that dude in that show. I love that show. Strong dude, powerful dude. He gets stuff done. That's you already have all these confirmation biases going in that direction. Trickle down economics was a game to keep us from asking for more. They find ways to tell us, no, you can do it, as long as you try harder, and not realizing the game has been rigged against all of us for so long. When I say all of us, I mean the working class, the middle class, poverty class, the how exceptionally hard you must work to get yourself out of any of those three is wild. And while they'll have examples, they'll find someone that they can puppet around and demonstrate, like, look, this person, they were once in the poverty class, and now look at them. Like someone like Colin Powell, for example.
Yes.
But people don't realize, like, he was able to get out of that because his family hit the numbers. You know, that was he literally won the lottery. If he didn't, he would not. We wouldn't know his name. He wouldn't have been a military general. All these opportunities wouldn't have been readily available for him. And then we have a few other ones, and we see them in show business, and we look at them and we fail to recognize we can only count a couple dozen.
Yeah.
A couple dozen. There's 341 million of us, and we can only count a couple dozen, and we don't see new faces every year like someone else who made it. Oh, this one made it out. This one, and it keeps that lie alive. You can make it out. It's just that you really do have to work exceptionally hard. And that idea of trickle down economics isn't the case. We saw that with COVID. COVID was a perfect example where job creators weren't creating jobs. As much as they position themselves that, oh, we're job creators, you have to love us. That's all kind of ruler class speak to prevent the plebeians from attacking. Like, no, you need us. We are so good for you. No, man, they're a lot of them are thriving off of our hard of our blood and sweat and tears, and and it's on us to not be unaffected because we're in this system, but not let them take our peace, not let them take our community, not let them take our soul. And these things are readily tradable by a lot for the to chase the dollar, And
Yeah.
if you look at Musk, right, he's the wealthiest man on the planet. And at this point, it wasn't. I was so proud of him for so long. At this point, he literally is the richest man to walk the earth. Mansa Musa had him until like 2 months ago. People did not know how wealthy, like until 2 months ago, dog. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, still, but because he was worth $400 billion in his day. But he's not happy. You look at him; he's not happy as much as he has. He's got 12 kids. One kid won't even talk to him. He has three baby mamas. None of them like him. He, you never see him with friends. You never see him with a woman. He parades his kid around as a PR tool. And as much as money as he has, he didn't find happiness because the one thing that he can't buy, he'll never have, and that's enough.
Yeah.
It's a problem, and the America, like you said, the fascist narrative, that divisive narrative, it works and it keeps us really docile. And it's not that we need to be militant, um, but we do need to be willing to let the powers that be know there's a limit and understand the proper way to push. There are levers that you can pull, and there's certain ways you can push. And I'm talking non-violently, folks. But there's ways to be disruptive. John Lewis would say, "Good trouble." There's ways to let people know, like, nope, you cross the line. There's a contract. You're supposed to do for us, and then we do our part and not be annoying. But you've crossed the line, and now we're going to be annoying. And whatever that means, without shedding blood, we need to figure out how to just crank that up right now because they are going in a direction that we do not have much of a roadmap for. So we have to buckle up and prepare for action. We have to prepare for community. We have to prepare to make sure that we take care of ourselves because the government is not going to be offering many ways to take care of us in the next 2 years. Hopefully, midterms change things, but if not, 4 years. A lot of safety nets that we rely on, like you said, Medicare, Social Security. These things are at risk, and people feel safe by saying that's fear mongering, right?
Yeah.
People feel safe by saying that's not true. You're just fear mongering. My mentality is, if it is true, what should we do? If
Yeah.
it's not true, who cares? It doesn't matter, right? There's an asteroid, like I read yesterday, there's an asteroid that has a 2% chance from hitting the Earth. I don't care. All right, like this 2% chance. But if it is coming, then what should we do? Like if we know people in government are talking about this, if we know there's been a book written about how to do this by people who are currently confirmed as part of our president's cabinet, we should consider it's not a joke. We should consider that they are going to try, especially since they have all their stars lined up. They have the Supreme Court in their back pocket. They can pretty much do what they want. Everyone that he's put up for nomination has passed, right? Except Matt Gaetz, but I guess he didn't like him. But Hegseth, RFK Jr. got confirmed today. I'm sure Cash Patel will be confirmed. Tulsi Gabbard just got confirmed yesterday. It's 50-50, and JD Vance can always break the tie, worst case scenario. So take it seriously, folks. Don't be afraid. If you feel like it's finger mongering, just say, I'm not afraid. I'm logical, but I want to know what's going to happen. And ask yourself, what am I going to do if it happens? It's you, it's your family, it's your community. It's
Right.
not to play with.
No, and I think that's important that like conversation like this is important because, we have to have that dialogue of like what's going to happen next, what can we do? Who would even imagine in 100 years we had to deal with COVID and the world was shut down?
Right.
And again, uh, you know, we had the past administration had documentation for the new administration to say, hey, um, they had things in line to prepare for this, but
Right.
they're like,
Right.
we don't want to deal with it. And so, consequences has their
Right.
actions. And so, what they're doing is, they're like tearing everything up in the china shop, breaking everything.
Right.
And when it goes back to Eli, you cannot run the government like a business. You can't. Government is too big. You can't do that.
No.
It's an asinine thought process to think you can run the government like X. You can't do that. Like in X, you can have a handful of people, coders, out people to run X. You can't do that with the government people because there's people in place that play a major role to keep the government efficient. It
Right.
may not be like on time, but it keeps everything efficient. And
Right.
and so I think that's important too. And then on top of that, like you can't script the perfect villain of all time. I'm just saying, the grandson of a Nazi
It's
soldier
it's bad
who went
writing.
to South Africa to
It's
support apartheid.
it's bad writing.
Now
It's bad writing. It's bad writing. Like, I'm
is
sorry,
is
God,
hand in hand with the president of the
this
United
author character.
States. That's the
It's
you can't make that script up.
it's so you couldn't sell it is a thing, right? If you wrote it, you could write whatever you want to write, right? The thing is,
Right.
like, no publisher's gonna take you serious. Like, nah, that's just too on the nose, man. Like, give me some nuance to your character. Like, no, he has no nuance. He has a sledgehammer. Like, no one's gonna. Yeah, well, that's what we got. That's what we got. I keep wondering how to break the spell, man. Because like you get it, I get it. People that we know get it. How do we get those before? I'm sure it's gonna take a sting first. Like until they're hurt, they won't get it. But my thing is, we need an off ramp too, right? Because I've heard a lot of people respond to my posts and say, well, FAFO, like they're gonna learn, they're gonna find out. I'm like, they're they're people too,
Yeah.
and to be honest with you, they probably didn't know because the information that we get and the information that someone who's in a different political alignment gets, there's an ocean in between them. And I realize there's three different people in this country, broad strokes. You have your left leaning, you have your right leaning, and then you have people who just don't care.
Yeah.
And so some people just don't even know. I had to convince one of my friends to vote back in October. I was like, dog, you voting? I was like, yeah, I guess I will. What? And he's like, tell me some issues. I'm like, dog, it's October. And I realized like he's on his grind. He's focusing on his business. He's building his business. He's finally hit six figures, so I can't blame him because he had to be laser focused.
Right.
But it dawned on him, like, wow, some people just straight up do not pay attention to politics at all.
Right.
And it doesn't mean it's not going to affect you. Again, like I said, if property taxes go up, which they will have to, the price of literally pretty much everything else is going to have to go up because we all live on land, right?
Yeah.
So, but we need off ramps, and if anyone knows someone who is either really conservative or MAGA or what have you, and you're still family or friends with them, you know, try and like allow soft space, try and allow middle ground, try and find ways to have conversations, increasingly so, that are not political in nature, just so
Right.
that your relationship can start to rebuild on a neutral base. And
Right.
then when they want to bring up certain things that are political, aim to be as neutral as possible. I wouldn't say fight them or argue or debate. Just hear them out. That's what I do. I have a close
Right.
friend. He's Matt. He's literally a MAGA, born again evangelical Christian, and I will never get rid of this dude.
Right.
He's a friend of mine from the first day of college, and I see beyond that. You got to see beyond the decisions you don't understand of people that are in their lives, because
Right.
they have their reasons, and whether it's good or know, whether it's good or not, they still have value. We're all supposed to
Right.
see humans as having
Yeah.
value. Um, and so my thing is, I'll have conversation with him. I notice on certain seasons when things get really political, he's just not reaching out to me, and I'm like, that's fine, dude. I get it. That was kind of embarrassing. I'm not, and I don't come at him. Oh, look what Trump did.
Right.
Every now and then I'll bring something up, but I keep it real soft because we need them. At the end of the day, we need them. We need all the numbers we can when push comes to shove, and we need to let the powers that be recognize they've overstepped their authority and they've crossed too many lines. It it can't just be black people.
Yeah.
It can't just be the working class. It can't just be the poverty class. We need everyone to really rise up appropriately and say, nope, no more. Nope, no, you crossed the line. You crossed the line. Why are we invading Greenland? What are you doing? Why
Right.
are we, you know what I mean? Why are we going to war with Canada? We're not going to war with Canada. For what? Like, to make them our state? We're not doing that, sir. That's just asinine. We're not doing that. And we need, like, there needs to be a firm response from the American people, and they see an intersectional representation. They need to see black men and white men and women, black, white, Spanish, indigenous. They need to see able-bodied, disabled. They need to see gay and Christians
Mhm.
standing side by side and freak out for a second because they realize, how the hell did they unite? And the only way we can do that is if we're willing to still have that off ramp and olive branch and reach out and say, you know what? Yeah, I get it. You voted for them, but like, we got work to do. Let's just get this work done, and we'll sort out why you're an idiot later.
Yeah. No, and I feel you on that because again, it goes back to, a lot of people get their information from X, and so again,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to be, you can't believe everything you see on X. Just take it for what it is, but do your own research. And if you don't know how to research, reach out to someone that knows how to do that and, give you the proper information so you can make the proper decision. Just like anything in life, like you're not going to sign your name on a contract without having the proper people in place to read that contract for you before you sign it. You know what I mean? And it's just as simple as that. But yo, bro, this has been an amazing conversation. I
cheers, brother.
appreciate you. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
How can people find you? And the second thing, like, what can people college students can do when it comes to the situation? Because what I worry about with college students and their student loans or future students who may not be able to get student loans is that they have access to their information. And what I worry about, like I know previous time we talked about it, how there was a bill to basically privatize student loans.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what I feel like could happen is that they have this information, and now the government could probably be that middleman for those private
Oh
sharp
yeah, yeah.
loaners.
Hmm.
So if you want to break down a little bit before we get
Sure,
out of here.
sure. First, to find me at Behavior Booster, you can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Instagram. If you go to behaviorbooster.com, you can find my site. If you know any parents who have kids with special needs, challenge your behaviors, check it out. We got ebooks, all that jazz. When it comes to college students, what I'll say is, I'll tell you a tale of 2 days. Um, when I was in high school, I had a group of friends, tight friends, about seven of us. We called ourselves the Bears, and two of them were both named Dave. And they both got accepted into Cornell University. They both wanted to go to Cornell University, and they both came from working class families that couldn't afford to send them to Cornell University. So one Dave said, man, what can I do? And he didn't bother trying. The other Dave said, what can I do? And every single day, he looked for another scholarship, grant opportunity, no matter how much it was. $250, I'm writing for that. $500, I'm writing for that. $1,000, I'm writing for that. And he wrote essay after essay after essay. Had my boy Rich read over everyone because he's an excellent scanned them and proofreading all that jazz. And he got the money together. You know, if you really want to get something done, do the work and do it again and try beyond the comfort of it being easy. All right. You're going to be tempted in life to only do things that are easy. And if you keep that up, you're going to look around your 40s and say, shit, make the effort and make more of an effort than the person next to you. That's how you get ahead. All right. So even if college loans are become a thing of the past through the government, there's still grants, there's still scholarships, there's still resources out there available. You gotta do the work. You gotta look for it. You have access to find these things. If you're not gonna use Google, use ChatGPT. Simply write like, what are some college scholarships that are for, this major or this profession you want to go into, or for this school that you're looking to apply to, and do it again and again and again. If my boy Dave can do it, trust me, you can do it. And now he gets paid $700 an hour. So it's definitely worth his time to make that effort. All right. So, and not saying it's going to be easy, but nothing in life that's worthwhile ever is. You want to go to college, make it happen. The powers that be are banking on less and less people going to college because that works to their advantage, not yours. Okay. If you want to go to vocational school and you have a calling to go to vocational school, go to vocational school. If you have a calling to go to college, right? Follow your actual authentic, follow your heart. If your heart really has a drive to go in one direction or another, go with that direction. But don't let anyone tell you can't because. All right. Find a way or make a way. It's not easy, but when you're young, you have a lot more leeway than when you're older. And however long it takes, guys, if you're on the path and you really want to get a degree and you want to have a career in X, Y, or Z, time will pass either way. All right. So you don't have to get it done in 4 years if you can't get it done in 4 years. 10 years is going to pass whether you're in college or not. So if you take class here, take class here, take class here, you can do that as well. If you need to get your associate's degree and that's a more affordable way to start, do that. There's so many different pathways you can take to get to that final spot. I had to take a lot of different pathways before I got my double masters. And I'm telling you, like, it was work, but I said the time will pass either way. It doesn't matter that right now I can't afford this. I can only afford to take one night class. So I took one night class. The next semester I took two, and then do whatever you can by any means necessary to make your life better and into the life that you really want it to be. Please. And I'll end on that note.
And I love it too because again, at the end of the day, it's about um, when it comes to rights, it's not entitled to us. We have to fight for it.
Always.
Even though it's in the Constitution, especially for Black people, it took a lot longer. But
Mm,
again, it's a continual fight. It's a continual fight. The government is not going to just give it to you. You have to fight. You have to organize. You have to sacrifice. And like we talked about last time, are you willing to sacrifice everything for the better of tomorrow?
right. Right.
And some people don't look past the future, but it is what it is. But brother Lake, thank you for coming on. We got to do this again in the future. Let's keep
Absolutely.
our eyes on what's going on, and we'll do this again. This has been another amazing episode of the podcast. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And we're out. Peace.
Cheers.